Hello and welcome to an IELTS essay correction video, and the question today is about traffic jams and the government should tax private car owners heavily and use the money generated from those tax collections to improve public transportation. And the question is about advantages and disadvantages of such a solution to the traffic problem. You can read the answer to this question and read this article, basically the answer correction, by clicking on the link below this YouTube video, and you will be directed to the page on my website. The purpose here is to discuss some of the mistakes the student has made, and I'm sure these discussions will be immensely helpful to a lot of students. There are a few things I have highlighted over here, and I don't think that these things need any discussion. Well, many students make mistake in subject-verb agreement. The subject, whenever it is singular, you need to use an S or ES with the verb. If this is a disagreement, that is, with a singular subject, you're not adding S or ES. That will be considered a subject-verb disagreement mistake, and you will lose bands in grammar area. If this mistake repeats itself, if you are unable to correctly write the subject-verb combination, you will significantly lose bands on the grammar part. Okay, so grammatical resources score will fall. Now here the student has made this mistake, I guess, only once, so that will not be a major impact. However, it is important to remember that you should try to cut on as many mistakes as possible. Okay. Another thing that I will highlight in another part of this video is that the student has made a lot of mistakes on prepositions. So there are certain prepositions, there are no rules of prepositions, there are certain prepositions that naturally come with some other words. So for example, it's always tax on private cars, you cannot tax to private cars. Okay, so I'll come and discuss various other prepositions in this video. The second is opt for. Now the student has written, people may opt for it than private cars. Now the correct thing with opt for is instead of. Why instead of? When you opt for A, it means you have not opted for B. Okay, so if you write than is a comparative thing, and it says, okay, I prefer A over B, or I prefer more A than B. So it means that I still prefer B, but I prefer A more. Okay, but when you opt for A, it means you have rejected B. So you're not preferring B, you are rejecting B. So than shows that, okay, one thing weighs more than the other. When you say instead of, it means one thing is rejected and the other thing is selected. So that's the nature of opt. So while opt says, okay, I'm going to opt for A, not for B, than says that A is more preferred than B. So this is incorrect. They cannot come together. They're contradictory in nature. Okay? So the right thing is opt for A instead of B, or opt for A rather than B. Okay, these are the two things that you can use with opt for, right? Let us come to point number C. But before that, let us come to point number 1 mentioned over here, and the student has made a logical flaw. What the student has done is that she has missed to connect the things. She has missed, for example, let me say over here, A is followed by B is followed by C, and she has jumped from A to C, so the B portion is missing. So if you read this sentence, you will realize that she has directly connected taxes collected from car users with comfort and convenience of public transport. So if I collect taxes from cars, how does that lead to comfort and convenience of public transport. How does it do that? Okay, so there is no direct connection between taxis from cars with comfort and convenience of public transport. You need to connect the two things, and that's exactly what I've done in this sentence. Okay, so I've written government should use these taxes, so the taxes collected from cars, to invest in public transport. Okay, you are investing this money in public transport infrastructure such as air-conditioned buses, comfortable metro trains, monorails, and ensure their adequate availability during peak hours. So invest in air conditioning, adequate availability. And what is air conditioning and adequate availability? That's comfort and convenience. Okay, so what I've done is I have put the B part here, which was missing in the logical flow of the ideas. Remember that you cannot make a logical mistake. Okay, that will be a severe flaw in communication, and that will not be taken well in the IELTS exam. Next is the use of such as. Remember, such as is a powerful exemplification device. So it gives examples of things. It must be placed next to the word it exemplifies. For instance, the student has done over here is cars are one of the top contributors to air pollution. Again, this is a preposition mistake. To air pollution as they emit hazardous gases to the environment such as carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxides, and hydrocarbons. So it seems as if carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxide, and hydrocarbons are examples of environment. They're not examples of hazardous gases, but examples of environment. This is incorrect. Okay, so what you need to do is place such as next to hazardous gases. Hazardous gases such as carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxides, and hydrocarbons to the environment. So this is called sentence structuring. If you make mistake in sentence structuring, and if you make a mistake in sentence structuring, you will lose bands in, guess what? Grammatical resources. Okay, so sentence structuring is another element of grammatical resources. So your grammar may be perfect, but if you misplace elements of a sentence, it means that you are not good in sentence structuring. You do not know where each element needs to be placed, and consequently communication is somewhat lost. So you will lose bands in grammatical resources. And here is another preposition mistake. There is no decline on, but decline in. The number of cars usage. Now, number is a countable thing. So a countable thing is one that you can count. That is, number is 500, 50,000, perhaps a million or a billion, a gazillion. But still, that is countable. Usage cannot be counted. Usage is the manner in which you use something. Okay, so these two things do not gel with each other. They're like water and oil. They do not mix. Okay, so number of cars usage, that's incorrect. So simply write number of cars. Okay, so that's another mistake that will cost you bands in grammar portion. And I'm sure part 2 is very clear, and that does not need much elaboration. Now let us come to body paragraph 2. At the beginning of body paragraph 2, there is another preposition mistake. Let me change the color. Yeah. Taxes to car owners. That's taxes on car owners. So you must have realized by now that there are a lot of preposition mistakes, and that will severely hamper the score. Another point of discussion over here is the use of which. When A leads to B, or when A leads to B and C, it is always advisable to, and you want to separate A from B, okay? So if you read this sentence, A portion is this, and this seems separate from the B portion, B and C. So the best way to connect these separable portions is by using a connecting device and a connecting, I should say, an adjective, and that adjective is which. An adjective pronoun, which, or you can also use that. Okay, so A, which leads to B and C. This is the right structure to follow. So here, longer time is leading to two things. It is causing damage and it is leading to something. Okay, so A, this is B and C over here, and they can be connected using which. That's exactly what I've done. This also helps you in parallelism. So which may, it does two things. Which may, number one, cause, and number two, lead. So cause is the first word of A, and that is a verb. Lead is the first word of B, and that is another word, and another verb, I'm sorry. And the student has made a similar mistake over here. Now, when A leads to B, that is, one is a cause, another is a consequence. So this is a conclusion, right? The student has done this mistake over here. She has used thus. If you want to use thus, begin with a new sentence. Okay, so they may be discouraged to purchase more cars. Okay, so there should be a full stop over here. Thus, this may negatively affect. So the thus portion must have its own independent existence, and it must have its independent subject. And what is the subject here? Thus, this may negatively affect, if you want to write a separate sentence. Okay, but here, if you want to maintain with the same sentence, what is the alternative? This is the alternative. Okay, so you're connecting A with B, and that's exactly what I've done over here. They may be discouraged to purchase more cars. That may negatively affect car companies. Okay, so you need to understand sentence structuring to make a positive impact. Another point that I've not mentioned over here is that they may be discouraged from purchasing. This is another preposition problem. From purchasing more cars. And finally, I have mentioned an example that can be used over here. If you want to use it, that's perfectly fine. If you don't want to use it, that's also fine. There are a few preposition mistakes here. And as I've said earlier, repetition of mistakes in one particular domain will severely impact your score. Okay, so this was my take on this answer. I'm sure this video will help a lot of students in structuring their answers better, in avoiding some of the pitfalls, some of the mistakes that they are making. If you're making mistake in one particular domain, for example in prepositions, I strongly advise you to make a list of common prepositions, or to make a list of preposition mistakes that you are making, and then revise that list as frequently as possible. Okay, thank you for watching this video. I'm sure it will be useful to all students. If you like it, please subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends, and stay tuned for more interesting videos.